Truman Duncan was still conscious under the rail car when he understood that waiting quietly would kill him. The yard around him was wide, loud, and industrial, the kind of place where metal moved in long lines and men trusted routines because one mistake could be fatal. He was pinned beneath equipment that weighed thousands of pounds, trapped in a position no person was supposed to survive. His body had been pulled under the wheels. His lower half was entangled in the machinery. The pain came hard at first, then changed into something distant and alarming, as if his mind was trying to separate from what had happened. He did not have a crowd around him. He did not have someone kneeling beside him telling him to hold on. He had a cell phone, a fading grip on consciousness, and a decision to make before shock took over. If he stayed where he was and passed out, he might die before anyone found him. Truman Duncan was a railroad worker in Cleburne, Texas, about 50 miles southwest of Dallas. In June 2006, he was 36 years old and working at the Gunderson Southwest Rail Yard, a facility that repaired and refurbished rail cars. He knew the danger of the job. Rail yards were full of blind spots, heavy equipment, and moving steel that did not forgive hesitation. A rail car did not have to be moving fast to kill a man. It only had to keep moving. On the day of the accident, Duncan and a co-worker were involved in moving rail cars inside the yard. Reports at the time said they were attempting to couple 8 rail cars to 3 others. Later, Duncan described riding on the front of a rail car as it moved toward a repair dock. He slipped and fell onto the track. The moment he hit the ground, the rail car was still coming. Duncan tried to get away. He ran backward, trying to outrun the moving weight behind him, but he could not clear it in time. The car caught him and pulled him beneath it. He later described the sensation like a monster dragging him in while he pushed against it, unable to escape. The rail car dragged him about 75 feet before it stopped. By then, the damage was catastrophic. His legs had been severed or nearly severed. One leg was caught between a steel wheel and a brake. The other was caught in wheel and axle parts. Later reporting described his body as nearly cut in half at the waist, with one leg attached by only a small amount of muscle. He had also suffered severe internal injury. Duncan was alive, but he knew he was running out of time. The weight of the equipment and the position of his body may have slowed some of the bleeding, but it also trapped him in place. He was alone enough that rescuers did not immediately know where he was. The rail yard was large, and from the outside, one trapped worker under a rail car could be terribly hard to see. He reached for his phone. The call he made became the part of the story people could hardly believe. He did not wait for someone else to find him. He called emergency services himself. On the 911 recording, Duncan told the operator he needed Care Flight, the air ambulance service. He said he thought he had been cut in two. The operator asked if someone had been run over. Duncan answered that it was him. Even then, he tried to explain what was happening. He told the operator he believed he was going into shock. He told her to hurry because he was about to pass out. His voice was not the voice of someone who did not understand his condition. It was the voice of a man who understood it too well and was trying to stay alive long enough for help to reach the right place. After calling 911, Duncan made another call. He contacted his family. He told them he was hurt. He told them he loved them. Then he put the phone aside and concentrated on surviving. Years later, he said he knew that if he simply lay there, he would die. Staying awake became a task. Breathing became a task. Waiting became a fight. Emergency crews rushed toward the rail yard, but finding him was not instant. Other workers also reported the accident, but the yard was spread out, and Duncan was trapped beneath the car in a way that required careful searching and a careful rescue. Responders had to locate him, stabilize the rail car, and figure out how to free him without causing more damage. It took close to an hour to find him and extricate him from beneath the equipment. The rescue was dangerous for everyone involved. The rail car had to be secured. Crews used a heavy-duty airbag to lift the car from the tracks while working around steel wheels, brakes, axles, and a man whose life could end with one wrong movement. They were not just freeing a trapped worker. They were trying to lift a piece of machinery off a man who had already survived more than most bodies could withstand. Duncan was airlifted to a Fort Worth hospital. He arrived in critical condition. Doctors and nurses faced injuries that sounded impossible even to people trained for trauma. His left leg was ultimately amputated at the hip. His right leg was amputated above the knee. He lost a kidney. Medical teams had to clean dirt, gravel, and debris from his wounds. He underwent repeated surgeries, and for weeks his life remained uncertain. The survival did not end when the train was lifted away. That was only the start of a longer fight. Duncan was placed in a medically induced coma and endured operation after operation. His body had to survive blood loss, infection risk, organ damage, and massive trauma. His family had to wait through updates no family wants to hear, hoping that each day meant he had made it past one more danger. What made Duncan's survival so difficult to understand was not only the injury itself, it was the sequence of things he did afterward. He recognized that he was going into shock. He reached his phone. He gave enough information to start rescue moving. He called his family. He stayed awake as long as he could. He survived long enough for workers and rescuers to find him in a sprawling rail yard, then survived the extrication, the flight, the emergency treatment, and the surgeries that followed. In interviews later, Duncan did not talk like a man trying to turn himself into a legend. He talked about family. He said he thought about his loved ones and used that to keep himself present. The thought was simple and desperate. Stay awake, get help there, live long enough to see them again. There was no clean ending where he simply healed and returned to the life he had before. Surviving meant waking up to a body permanently changed. It meant learning how to live after losing both legs and a kidney. It meant pain, rehabilitation, dependence, adjustment, and the mental weight of remembering the moment the rail car pulled him under. Survival did not erase what happened. It only gave him the chance to keep going after it. His case drew national attention because the basic facts seemed impossible. A man had been nearly severed by a rail car, trapped beneath it, and still managed to call 911. But behind the shock of that headline was something more human. Duncan had not survived because the accident was less serious than people thought. He survived because, in the narrow space between impact and unconsciousness, he acted. He fought the panic. He used the phone. He forced himself to stay in the world. The rail yard accident in Cleburne became one of the most astonishing survival stories ever reported from an American workplace. It showed the horror of heavy industry when a routine task turned fatal in seconds. It also showed how survival sometimes depended on a person doing one small thing while everything in the body was failing. Truman Duncan should not have been able to make that call. He should not have been able to explain what happened. He should not have lived long enough to hear rescuers reach him. But he did. Under the rail car, with his body broken beyond what seemed survivable, he found his phone and asked for help. That call saved his life. Thank you for listening to Horrifying Survival Stories. Subscribe for more stories of those who faced the impossible and lived.